Good morning. Welcome to Saturday, April 22nd, 2023. This is Just Parlays with Chris King on the Winners and Winers Network. Of course, I'm your host, Chris King, because as you see, there's still nobody else here. Hopefully everybody had a good week. Hopefully it was a profitable week as we head into weekend 2 of the NBA playoffs, the opening weekend of the NHL playoffs since they started on Monday. Of course, Major League Baseball is still in full swing. It's the regular season's final week in the XFL. Meanwhile, the USFL plays week 2 of their season. I know everyone really excited about the USFL. What did we see yesterday? Well, if you're a fan of the LA Kings, you're a happy guy or woman because they took down Edmonton 3-2 in overtime to take a 2-1 series lead out west. Connor McDavid scored twice, but nobody else did anything for the Oilers. And that proved to be their undoing. Edmonton, again, losing a close game. And you have to wonder, is goaltending going to be an issue for them in this series? You know, this time at least they rallied from a deficit. They were down 1-0, went up 2-1, gave up the tying goal 18 seconds later, and then lost in overtime on a power play goal by Trevor Moore. They have fired plenty of rubber on net. They outshot the Kings 40-31, but they couldn't beat Eunice Korpisalo when it mattered the most. We saw the Minnesota Wild bounce back from giving up 7 goals in Game 2 to the Stars. They won 5-1 at home in their series to take a 2-1 lead. Apparently, Dean Evison saw enough of Marc-Andre Fleury in Game 2, went back to Philippe Gustafsson, and he stopped 23 out of 24 shots to help the Wild get the win. And in the other 2 games in the Eastern Conference, we saw Boston, despite playing without Patrice Bergeron, who won't be back until at least Game 5, and without David Krejci, they still beat the Panthers 4-2. We saw Sergei Bobrovsky come in relief after Boston went down 3-0. Or Boston went up 3-0, I should say. It's his first playoff action of the series. First action he's had in a while because he was out down the stretch. That's why Alex Leon got all those starts as Florida got into the playoffs. It'll be interesting to see what Florida does for Game 4 as far as goaltending goes. But the Panthers down 2-1 in the series. They need to win at home in Game 4 to have any shot at doing anything in this series at all. And finally, in Game 3 on the island, the New York Islanders broke a 79-year-old NHL record by scoring 4 goals in less than 2.5 minutes to break a 1-1 tie as they beat the Carolina Hurricanes 5-1. That game was 1-1 with under 4 minutes to play before Kyle Palmieri broke the tie with a power play goal at 16:09 of the third period. Matt Martin made it 3-1 at 16:53. And then a couple of empty netters in the final 2 minutes put the game away. Important game for the Islanders. They're now back in the series. They're down 2-1 with Game 4 coming. But an inspiring performance. Where I said he was reverse swept yesterday. And the Panthers have 2 X-Fly. Is Leon an X-Flyer? I didn't realize that he was, probably because he hadn't really played before this season. But, Bobrovsky, he's bounced around, spent time in Columbus too. Okay, I didn't realize Leon was 30 already. So, yeah, okay. I hadn't heard much of him before this season, so probably because he was a backup. Just looking at his numbers, I see 11 games in 2017-18, and then 2 games in 18-19, 3 in 2019 and 20, and then 6 games in 2020-21. They played 2 games in Carolina last year. So that's rough going if you're a Panthers fan, knowing that you have 2 ex-Philadelphia goaltenders at this point. Not really gonna work out for you too well. Ryan, I know you hate the NBA, but let me ask you, now that Embiid's not playing today, do you think that's really going to affect the 76ers against the Nets this afternoon? I mean, Brooklyn had all the chances in the world to win Game 3 and make this a series, and wilted in the fourth quarter, scoring just 15 points. I mean, Harden was ejected in that game at the end of the third. Embiid was dragging himself up and down the court and didn't do anything offensively. And not only did the Nets lose, they couldn't even cover because they turned the ball over in the last 8 seconds, down 3. I'm just curious to see what the feeling in the city of brotherly love is about the fact that Embiid won't play tonight in this afternoon, I should say, because they're the 1 o'clock start. Right, says the Sixers are going to finish them off. I agree. I mean, the line shifted. I think it was 5.5. I think it was down. It was down to 2 last night. I don't know. I haven't had a chance to look and see what it was yet this morning to see if it's changed any further. But yeah, it looks like it's still sitting around 2. I don't think it matters. It's 1.5 at a couple books, Unibet and BetMGM and Caesars. And Bet Rivers. Everybody else has it at 2. But I don't think it matters. We've seen this Nets team, they can't rebound. They don't shoot the ball well. And they're 0-7 this season in games against Philadelphia. It's just been a weird year for the Nets. You know, they had all those high expectations when the year started with Durant and Irving. And Simmons, and now here you are. You fast forward to April, and Durant's in Phoenix. Irving's on the golf course because Dallas didn't make the playoffs, and Simmons hasn't played since mid-February and won't be back this season. What did we see in the NBA yesterday? Well, nothing overly exciting. We saw Atlanta get 57 combined points from Trae Young and DeJounte Murray as they beat the Celtics 130-122 in the kind of offensive game that we thought we would have seen in the first 2 games of the series. Boston hit 21 of 48 from 3-point range, but the problem was they got killed on the glass 48-29, and they allowed Atlanta to shoot 56% from the floor. You can't let a team shoot that well if you hope to win. Meanwhile, Boston was led by Tatum. He had 29 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. I know a lot of people were upset because his over-under was 29.5, and he missed a free throw late in the game that could have pushed him over the number, but Boston just was outplayed. Robert Williams, not really a factor, only played 19 minutes, had 4 points, 5 rebounds. He's been the anchor for Boston's defense. But you look at the small ball lineup that the Celtics rolled out with Horford, Tatum, and then Marcus Smart, Derek White, and Jaylen Brown. Didn't really work out because Young had 32, Murray had 25. And Atlanta actually got points from their bench. You know, Sadiq Bey had 15 and 8 rebounds in 27 minutes. Bogdanovich had 15. Johnson had 10 points in 13 minutes. He was had pretty much disappeared for long stretches of the season. Right, if you watch the Knicks Cavaliers game, either you're a masochist or you're a Knicks fan, and those two things are probably interchangeable. That game was horrible for offense. Cleveland turned the ball over 20 times. They shot 38.8% from the field. They were only 10 of 17 at the free throw line. At the half, the score was 45-32. And it did get a whole lot better in the second half. The Knicks shot 47%. There's that. They were also 10 of 33 from three-point range, but some awful shooting numbers in that game. You take a look, and Julius Randle, the Knicks won, but he was 3 of 15 from the floor. Quentin Grimes was 1 of 5. Meanwhile, for Cleveland, you wonder why Jared Allen only had 3 shots in 37 minutes. And B, why did Darius Garland keep shooting the ball? He finished the game 4 for 21. On the plus side, you say, hey, he was 3 for his last 9 because he started 1 for 12. But still, 4 of 21 from the floor. Meanwhile, Donovan Mitchell was 9 of 19, even though he missed 6 of his 8 3-point range. He finished with 22. And in the late game, well, Minnesota did Minnesota things. They were down by 6 at the half. They went down double digits. They came back. It was a 3-point game with 10.5 minutes to go. They couldn't stop Denver down the stretch. Jokic had a triple-double, 7th of his postseason career. Michael Porter had 25. Jamal Murray had 18 and 9 assists. Jokic 20, 11, and 12. Rudy Gobert, at least he played offensively. He had 18 points and 10 rebounds in 32 minutes. He fouled out. Karl-Anthony Towns had a bounce-back offensive performance. He had 27. Anthony Edwards, 36 in the loss for Minnesota. The problem is you look at those 3 guys, Gobert and Edwards and Towns, they combined for 81 of the 111 points that Minnesota scored. And Minnesota's bench contributed a whole 10 points. 8 came from Taurean Prince, who played 15 minutes. Kyle Anderson had the other 2. He shot 1 of 7 from the floor. So Minnesota in a 3-0 hole. I guess we'll be seeing them on the golf course in the very near future. Morning, Marissa. Morning. GE Mortal Dead Bodies. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope it's going well, Mike. Hopefully things are good in the Midwest and all that good stuff. Baseball. What do we see from baseball? We saw the Rangers lose. I figured they were going to beat the crap out of Oakland because everybody does. And, for an inning, it looked really good because it was 4-0. Then Texas forgot that they have to play 9 innings and didn't score the rest of the way. Lost on a solo homer in the 9th. A's 5, Rangers 4. Houston came back and took down Atlanta 6-4 down at Truist Park. Good showing for them there. We saw the Red Sox beat the Brewers 5-3. The Nats beat the Twins 3-2. Another good start for Shohei Ohtani as the Angels don't score a ton of runs, 2. But it was enough to beat the Royals, 2-0. The final there, Ohtani, 7 innings, no runs, 2 hits, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts. His earned run average, 0.64 to this point of the season. The Royals had a total of 3 hits. The Padres, hey, they got Fernando Tatis back, right? Yeah, big deal. They had 2 hits yesterday against the Diamondbacks. Tatis had one of them. He's now 1 for 9 in 2 games. Final score there, the Diamondbacks 9 and the Padres nothing. It was a 2-0 game going to the bottom of the 8th, and the Diamondbacks beat up the San Diego bullpen to the tune of 7 runs in the 8th to turn that game into a romp. We saw Tampa Bay, another team that jumped out in front 4-0 in the first inning. They were down 7-4, and then it was 7-5 going to the bottom of the 9th when Reynaldo Lopez, who's apparently the closer right now because Liam Hendricks is out as he's recovering from all of the chemo from his cancer treatments. And by the way, happy to hear that Liam Hendricks is cancer-free. I mean, he may pitch for the White Sox, and obviously, if there's a team that the Cubs fans don't like outside of the Cardinals, it's the White Sox since they're in the same city. But still, glad to see that he's come through that all right and will hopefully be able to resume his major league career at some point going forward. But since he wasn't there, Reynaldo Lopez was in, and he promptly gave up a solo homer to Bethancourt to make it 7-6, gave up a base hit to Diaz, and then gave up a 2-run homer to Brandon Lowe to end the game. So great outing for Lopez. No innings, there are no outs recorded, 3 runs, 3 hits, and 2 homers allowed in the span of 11 pitches. His ERA now 9.35. Tampa Bay 11-0 at home, 17-3 on the year. They win 8-7. One thing I know Rye's happy about is after getting shut out by Ryan Feltner on Thursday, the Phillies came back from a 3-0 deficit to beat the Rockies 4-3. Aaron Nola, 7 solid innings, got a no decision. Sir Anthony Dominguez gets the win with a scoreless 8th, and Jose Alvarado gets his 3rd save with a scoreless 9th. Kyle Schwarber with his 5th homer of the year for the Phillies. That tied the game. They scored the winning run in the 8th on a single by Sosa, not Sammy Sosa, Edmundo Sosa. So good for the Phillies. And, finally we had the Cubs and the Dodgers. Julio Urias struggled yesterday. Second time this week he struggled against the Cubs. Disappointing showing for the Dodgers. So they finished with 1 hit. That's all we got. 1 goddamn hit. And it was an infield single that only managed to turn out because Yan Gomes decided to try to field the ball for the first time in his life and knocked over Drew Smyly. But, that's baseball for you. Meanwhile, the Cubs, 13 runs on 17 hits. They homered 4 times, including Cody Bellinger hit his 5th homer of the year, 3rd homer of the year against the Dodgers. He's hitting 301. You have to wonder, has he figured something out after those last few years of struggles? It's hard to say, but, he's looked relaxed this year, and that's something that can't be overlooked. He homered. Patrick Wisdom hit his 9th of the year. Warner hit his 1st, and Trey Mancini hit his 2nd. He had 3 hits after everybody was talking about how, I don't know why we're playing this guy. He sucks. He's still hitting 246, but he was 3 for 5 in yesterday's game. Can't complain about that. Meanwhile, the Dodgers, I'm wondering how in the world you made Drew Smyly look like, vintage Greg Maddux. 7 2/3, 1 hit, no walks, 10 strikeouts through 103 pitches. I was not expecting that performance at all. Hey, John, good to see you. We were talking about the Islanders a little bit ago. I'm sure you were excited about that game. And hopefully the Islanders can win again tomorrow at the UBS Arena, make a series out of that before they come back to the PNC Arena for Game 5. Yeah, that Texas play still irritates me. Seattle beat St. Louis. The Mets blanked the Giants. And everybody was disappointed. Of course, the Marlins and Guardians were rained out. On the flip side, you get a doubleheader today for Cleveland. They're showing Miami's undecided on their Game 1 starter. It was originally supposed to be Alcantara versus Bieber in the regular time slot for today's game. They're now going undecided. I'm guessing it'll probably still be Alcantara unless they move him to the second game, which currently shows Braxton Garrett going for the Marlins against Zach Plesac, because Jesus Luzardo going tomorrow in the series finale. But be interesting to see how things play out. Looks like the Dodgers have flipped pitchers. It was originally supposed to be, I believe, Kershaw today. They've now gone to Dustin May. Kershaw will throw tomorrow against Marcus Stroman at Wrigley Field. Like Rye said, a lot of come from behind games yesterday. And there were, a lot. We saw Washington was down 3-2 or 2-0 and came back to win 3-2. We talked about the Phillies. We talked about Tampa Bay. What other games were it? Baltimore beat Detroit 2-1. And hey, how about those Pittsburgh Pirates? We haven't seen Mario a ton lately, but hey, Pirates playing some pretty inspired baseball, especially considering they don't have O'Neal Cruz at the top of their lineup. Mitch Keller, a strong start yesterday. Pirates are 14-7. They're just half a game behind the Brewers for the top spot in the Central. They've won 5 straight. They get the Reds again tonight. Enjoy it while it's there, Pirates fans, because you never know what may transpire. Rise right. You got some good pitching matchups today, including Dylan Cease and Shane McClanahan. That game will be on Fox. Not sure if it'll be on Fox in your neighborhood because they're also showing the Mets and the Giants at 4:05. Pitching matchup not as great there. Nobody wants to see David Peterson and Logan I have no wins Webb. Joe Musgrove will make his season debut for the Padres today against Merrill Kelly of the Diamondbacks. I took Kelly when Arizona was in St. Louis earlier this week, and he turned in a solid start. Speaking of St. Louis, going to fade the hell out of them. Miles Mikolas going on the mound tonight at T-Mobile Park against Luis Castillo. The other marquee pitching matchups, you've got Alek Manoah going against Garrett Cole in the Bronx at 105. That should be a good one. Manoah hasn't really rounded back into form from last season yet. Meanwhile, Cole has just been lights out on the year. Comes in with a perfect record of 4-0 and an 0-95 earned run average, a 0.74 whip, 8 walks, 32 strikeouts. He's allowed just 13 hits in 28 1/3 innings. The Yankees looking to avenge yesterday's 6-1 loss to the Blue Jays. So it should be interesting. I'm sure Rye's thrilled to see Christopher Sanchez on the mound for the Phillies today. That game moved up because of rain. It was supposed to be a 4:05 start. Now it's a 3:05 start. He'll go against Kyle Freeland. Sanchez making his season debut after spending time on the IL with a tricep strain. He made 2 starts down in Lehigh Valley in rehab, so it'll be interesting to see what he brings to the table. With the Phillies having that doubleheader on Tuesday after Monday's rainout, they needed another starter with playing 6 games in 5 days. If you're looking for a bad pitcher, well, Shintaro Fujinami's going for the A's. And we've talked a lot about him because he's only pitching on Saturdays at the moment as he adjusts to the major league schedule. To put it bluntly, he's been bad. 0-3, 11.37 earned run average, a 1.658 whip, 9 walks, 10 strikeouts. He's given up 16 runs in 12 2/3 innings. And he's going to face off with Andrew Heaney. Does that include going to Wawa, Rye? Because we know that you're still going to go there 3 or 4 times no matter what you're doing. But I digress. Let's get into the stuff for today. Before we do that, let's do the housekeeping. Make sure that you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when we're on. As of right now, that's 9 a.m. on Saturday mornings. Will it change? Who knows? We're talking about maybe trying to come up with doing stuff at least once or twice during the week to talk about games in the afternoon. It's a work in progress. Trying to figure out the best way to do that. But we're always going to be here at 9 a.m. on Saturdays. So it's nice to see you guys here with us that are here. Or if you catch this afterwards, thanks for watching. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, there's a promo code scrolling across. That'll save 60% off any premium packages that are out there, whether it's on the parlay side or the individual game side. I have them both. So check those out at experts.winnersandwiners.com. and go from there. Now, with that said, let's take a look at what's on the docket for today. Start with 3 for the money. And we're going to start with, now take note, the first one I have 2 lines because it all depends which way you want to go. The Maple Leafs and the Lightning. You can go either over 6 at minus 120, or if you want to be greedy and get the plus money, over 6.5 at plus 100. I know you're thinking, well, you've got Andrei Vasilevsky in net, and you've got this and that. Doesn't matter. 8 of the last 11 meetings between these teams have gone over the number. In case you didn't watch the first 2 games of the series, it was Goalapalooza. We saw 10 goals in the opener. Tuesday night, we saw 9 goals. On Thursday night, just going back through, you saw 7 goals in the regular season, final regular season meeting between the teams. You had 7 in a game in December, and then going back to the last playoff series, which was last season, 5 of those 7 games went over the total. The only 2 games that didn't, Game 1 when the Leafs won 5-0, and Game 7 when Tampa Bay won 2-1 in a low-scoring game to advance. Every other game scored between those teams had at least 7 goals on the board. I don't see things magically slowing down. Looking at the injury report, Victor Hedman still questionable. Cernak questionable, and that's probably being generous. Without those 2 on the blue line, the top 4 guys that logged huge minutes in the series last year against the Maple Leafs defensively were Hedman, Cernak, Mikhail Sergachev, and McDonough. McDonough's gone as a free agent. Cernak and Hedman both missed Game 2. Shout out to Jim Taddy, who used to do Sportsline on Global back in the day and still does stuff with the Leafs. He said it's an uphill climb for Tampa Bay without those guys, and that's obvious. But as he would say, yes, guy. It's going to be interesting to see how Tampa Bay tries to adjust defensively. They get the last change, of course, being at home, but still look for more offensive bonanzas here. These 2 teams like to light the lamp. I talked a few minutes ago about the Mariners over the Cardinals. That's no change here. Everybody knows I hate St. Louis, but, Nicholas has been awful. When you look at his numbers, he comes in 0-1. His ERA is 8.10. His WHIP is over 2. He's given up a league-leading 36 hits in 20 innings. That's not going to get it done. Sure, he's only walked 5 guys, but who cares because they're beating the piss out of him. 36 hits in 20 innings. I'm just going to take a look here and see what the numbers against him are. Opposing hitters have a .396 batting average against Nicholas on the year. Their average on balls in play, 451. Now, I know it's a small sample size. I get it. It's only 4 starts. But it's 4 starts where he's given up at least 7 hits in each of his outings. Twice he's given up 10 hits. His start against the Pirates, where he only gave up 3 runs on 7 hits, was the first time he gave up less than 5 runs on his start all year. He's not generating much in the way of swinging strikes. He had just 4 swinging strikes in the start against the Pirates. He gives up a lot of line drives. He's given up 8 line drives in every game this season. And, you're facing Luis Castillo, who's familiar with the Cardinals after spending most of his career with the Reds. But he's pitched well up there in Seattle. After he got acquired at the deadline last year, he was 4-2 with a .317 ERA and 11 starts. So far this year, 2-0, 0.73 earned run average. Leads the league in whip at 0.608. He's given up just 11 hits and 24 and 2/3. Walked 4 guys, fanned 26. He's been a nice acquisition for the Mariners, and getting him signed to a new deal was important for Seattle going forward, because now they have guys at the front of the rotation that can help that team out in the pitching department. Then the Suns over the Clippers. I know this line has moved since last night when I did this. It was 5.5. I see now it's up to, let's see, 7.5. Kawhi Leonard has been ruled out for Game 4. Of course, you're not going to see Paul George. Give credit to the Clippers. They hung in Game 3. Ended up losing 129-124. But let's face it, I don't think the Clippers, they're not going to get 42 from Norman Powell again, and they're not going to get 30 from Westbrook. Or Bones Highland's probably not going to score 20. I just think that, this is probably the end of the line for the Clippers. I know a lot of people have thrown Kawhi under the bus for being injury prone and everything else. I just think the Suns are the better team. If you want to play the total, I would probably go with the over. It's currently sitting at 226 to 227, depending on what book you're at. Winbook is the lowest at 226. But you look, the over's 4-0-1 in the last 5 meetings between these teams. All in that range of 222 to 222.5 to 227 were the totals in those contests. We've seen the teams combined for 223, 233, 225, 232, and 253 in the last 5 games. All of those coming since February. I don't see the Clippers playing defense. The Suns have never really been good at defense. And I think this one ends up probably in the 235-ish range, in case you want to go that route. DE, we're talking about it. It's just trying to figure out the logistics and when we would do it, because it wouldn't be every day. Would be, we'd set a couple days during the week and find a time frame and all that. We're just trying to work out all the stuff to figure out how that would best work. That takes us from 3 for the money to 4 for the show. And there's the Yankees over the Blue Jays. It's hard to argue with what Garrett Cole has done this year for New York. We talked about it a minute ago. 4-0 and ERA under 1. Manoah, he was good last year. Hasn't found his form yet. 1-1, his ERA is 6.98. His whip is 1.966. He's walked a league high 15 guys in 19 1/3. This is coming after walking just 51 in 196.2 innings last year. So control has been an issue for him. On the plus side, he's only hit 2 guys after leading the league in each of the last 2 seasons. He plugged 16 guys in 111 2/3 innings in 2021, and then plugged 15 guys last year. So he's only hit 2 so far, so there's that. But Manoah's not being cheated. His FIP ERA is 7.01. He'll turn it around at some point, or at least you would think he would, but he's had one good start. That was against the Royals on April 5th when he threw 7 innings, gave up just 1 hit, walked 4, struck out 5, and a 3-0 Blue Jays win. But his other 3 starts, opening day, he gave 5 runs on 9 hits in 3 1/3 against the Cardinals. Against the Tigers, he went just 4 1/3, gave up 3 runs on 4 hits, 5 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And when he took the loss against Tampa Bay on, on Sunday, 4 2/3 innings, 7 runs, 9 hits, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts. Rough outing there, to say the least. I like the Yankees in that spot. Talked about the Pirates a minute ago. I look for them to win their 6th in a row. You're looking at the pitching matchup. It's Luis Sessa, who has not been good, taking on Rich Hill, who's old. But you look at Sessa's last start, which came against the Phillies on Sunday. He went 3 innings, gave up 11 runs on 14 hits with 3 walks, and didn't strike anybody out in a 14-3 Reds loss. He had one good start, and that was against the Cubs back on April 4th, when he gave up 2 runs on 4 hits with 3 walks and 2 strikeouts and 5 1/3. Then the Cubs beat up the bullpen, and they lost 12-5. He took the loss against Atlanta on April 11th. 5 runs on 7 hits, 2 walks, and a strikeout in 3 2/3 and a 7-6 defeat. And then he had that debacle against the Phillies on Sunday. Meanwhile, Hill coming off his best start of the year. Through 6 innings, he had 1 run on 6 hits, 2 walks and 7 strikeouts against the Rockies Monday night when they won 14-3 at Coors. That's 2 good starts in a row for Hill. He took the loss in his previous start, but he threw a quality start, giving up 2 runs on 5 hits in 6 innings against Houston. I don't trust the Reds. Have you seen their lineup? They're terrible. Or as Charles Barkley would tell you, they're terrible. Cincinnati as a team, what can we say about them? They're not good. Team batting average 235. They've got just 15 home runs in 20 games. Just looking at their lineup. Vosler, who stepped in since Joey Votto's on the shelf, is hitting $169. Their 2 best hitters, well, 3 if you want to throw Friedel in there because he's at 300. Spencer Steers at 304. India's at 314. But Jose Barrero, 224. Fairchild, $179. Will Myers is at 214. So is Jake Fraley. Kevin Hello Newman is hitting 220. Senzel was hitting $172. There's just not a lot of talent in that lineup right now. I mean, they've got some good young pitching because you look, their top 3 starters are Ashcraft, who's 2-0 with a 1.88 ERA. Lodolo's 2-1 with a 4.98, but that's because he got roughed up against Tampa Bay. And Hunter Green, who has no record with a 4.24 earned run average. He's fan 24 on the year at 17 innings. His problem is he elevates his pitch count to the point where you got to yank guys out in a hurry. Meanwhile, the Reds have 2 relievers that have 3 losses apiece. Derek Law, 0-3. Buck Farmer, 0-3. These aren't necessarily good. It's not really necessarily a solid bullpen by any stretch of the imagination. Brandon asked me about Bo Bichette with his RBI prop for the day. It's interesting. I'm just going to see what Bichette's done in his career against Cole because, I mean, that could be a problem too. Bichette, 6 for 30 in his career, 2 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs. He struck out 7 times in those 30 at-bats. Just going to take a quick look at the weather forecast up there in the Bronx because it's always important to get an idea of what's going on. Let's see. Wind's blowing in a little bit. It's possible, but I mean, it's so tough with RBI props because you don't know if you're going to get a guy on base for him to hit or have a chance to knock in, or if he's going to have to do it by himself the hard way. I'd be interested to see what people think. I don't know if he'll pull it off just based on career numbers against Cole. But hey, as we've seen in baseball so far this season, anything is possible. The Bucks over the Heat. We watched the Bucks hang 138 points in Game 2, despite Antetokounmpo not playing. I know he didn't practice yesterday. I think if he can play, if he thinks he can get out there, he'll be out there. Wesley Matthews is supposedly out with a calf injury. Nobody cares about that. Meanwhile, you're looking at Tyler Hero won't be back after he broke his hand. Kyle Lowry questionable with a knee injury. I don't trust Miami here. You just let Milwaukee, light you up. Like I said, without Antetokounmpo, and that you lost by 16, but that's because it was garbage time the entire fourth quarter because you were down 33 after 3 quarters in that game. Milwaukee's just a deep team with a ton of options. I mean, Joe Ingles had 17 off the bench in that game. Hit 5 of 6 from 3-point range. Pat Connaughton had 22. He hit 6 threes. I mean, there's just so many guys they roll out there. It's ridiculous. I don't think the Heat can keep up, and I don't think their defense is good enough against those guys. And McKinnon over 4.5 shots. He had, I believe it was 8 in Game 2. Made it easy because I had that as the final leg of a parlay, and he was over midway through the second period in Thursday's game. For Colorado's sake, you have to hope they don't fall behind 2-0 again because it's tough to play from behind against a team like the Kraken. They're very good in their own end, and they play solid hockey. But McKinnon's going to get his shots. I mean, there's no two ways about that. Especially, they don't have Landeskog. So it's him and Rantanen, and then you've got other guys that are talented, of course, but they're the big names. Just looking here, where'd it go? Yeah, he had 7 shots in the first game, 8 shots in Game 2. Also had 8 shots in the finale against Nashville in the regular season. He's averaged 6 shots a game in his last 10. So if you want to even climb the ladder a little bit and go over 5.5, that's available at plus 115 at Bet Rivers and Unibet. It wasn't there last night. Wouldn't surprise me if he ended up with 6 or 7 at least again, because he's such a valuable part of what makes Colorado go. And that takes us, of course, to everyone's favorite, the shot in the dark. Now, remember, you don't have to take all 10 of them. You can take 1 or 2. You could take 4. You could mix them with some of the other ones that are up here in the 3 and the 4 teamers. You can even mix them with your own. That's what makes it interesting. But with that said, especially with Embiid out, I expect Tyrese Maxey to have a big game. He carried the 76ers down the stretch in Game 3. And with Embiid, you got to have somebody put points on the board. Maxey leads the team in postseason scoring this season. So why not follow him? For some reason, they still have Embiid on the board. Oh, geez, boy, they rocketed that number up because now it's up at 24, 25.5. So I'm glad I grabbed it last night. Didn't realize they had jumped it up that far. But, they should take Embiid off the board instead of leaving him on there at 27.5. I expect a big game from Maxey, though. I'm going to lean towards the Leafs over the Lightning here. Like we said, we don't know who's going to be on the blue line for Tampa Bay. We saw them have issues in Game 2 without Hedman and without Cernak. We don't know what kind of shape either one of those guys are in at this point. And John Cooper's not going to tell you anything by any stretch of the imagination, because that's his job, is to, keep everyone out of the loop. The 76ers over the Nets. We talked about this a little bit earlier. We know Embiid's not playing. Doesn't really matter considering what we've seen from Brooklyn in this series, also known as, nothing. They've played horrible basketball most of the year. They had a couple hot stretches, but against Philadelphia, 0-7. Several of those games weren't close. They had their chances to get back in the series, let it slip away in Game 3. Then they threw away covering the line. I don't see them hanging in here, even without Embiid. I think there's too many other guys for Philadelphia that can score, and that will push the 76ers into the second round. Vegas over Winnipeg. You look at Winnipeg, and they just keep getting banged up. Hellebuyck took the puck off the mask the other night. He had to get bandaged up. You had the whole thing of Morgan Barron with the skate blade in Game 1. So there was that too. I know the series has switched back to Winnipeg, but Vegas was a very good road team in the regular season, going a impressive 26-7-8 away from the T-Mobile Arena. So watch out for them. In fact, all four of the teams on the road tonight had winning road records. Toronto was 23-13-5, Colorado 29-11-1, and the Devils 28-9-4. So good road teams playing tonight. So it'll be interesting to see how things pan out there. I just like Vegas here. I think their scoring depth is a little bit better. If Brissett can play decently in net, they'll have a shot on the road. Diamondbacks over the Padres. This is because I'm fading Musgrove since it's his first start of the year. You have to wonder how long he's going to go, how good he's going to look. He started the year 8-0 last year and then hit a wall and sputtered down the stretch. Just going to look at his rehab numbers real quick here. Yeah, because he started 8-0 and then went 2-7 last season down the stretch. Musgrove took the loss in A-ball at Lake Elsinore, went 5 innings, gave up 4 runs on 6 hits, no walks, 8 strikeouts. Made one start at El Paso in the PCL, 4 1/3, 3 runs, 2 earned, 5 hits, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. So he struck out 14 in 9 1/3 innings, but A-ball and AAA doesn't necessarily mean the same as playing at the major league level. I like Merrill Kelly. I think the Diamondbacks can keep it close at least. They're not going to get blown out. Unless the Padres tee off on Kelly, which is would be unexpected. The Astros over the Braves. This was tough until I looked a little further at the pitching matchup, and it's Framber Valdez going against Kyle Wright. Wright has kind of struggled so far this year. Comes in no record, a .623 earned run average, a whip of 173 in his 2 starts. Not quite what I think a lot of people were expecting from him in the early going, especially after winning 21 games a year ago. Meanwhile, Valdez is Valdez. He's pitched pretty well despite his 1-2 record. He's got a 1.8 earned run average. Granted, 5 of his 10 runs that he's allowed are unearned. But that's a tribute to bad defense. I mean, 1 of the 5 runs he gave up to Texas Sunday was earned, thanks to errors. But I just like the Astros a little bit better when it comes to the pitching matchup here, as far as that goes. The DC Defenders and the San Antonio Brahmas under 42. I don't expect DC to play most of their starters. They've already won the North Division title. They're going to be in the playoffs. San Antonio has the second best defense, or the best scoring defense in the league, but the second worst scoring offense. Not expecting a ton of fireworks. The Rockies or the Phillies, this is the same thing. With Musgrove, I don't know what you're going to get out of Christopher Sanchez. I'm not sold on the Phillies. He's basically up because of the fact that they need a starter. So, life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get with a spot starter. Orlando and Seattle over 47.5. Orlando scores a lot of points. St. Louis scores a lot of points. St. Louis needs to score a ton of points in case it comes down to point differential about who makes the playoffs. Wouldn't surprise me if they ran an up-tempo, no-huddle offense the whole game to try and look like Houston back in the days when Andre Ware played there, and we're blowing teams out 75 and 80 to 6. I think that one should end up over the number. And Mark Stone, congratulations. You spent most of the year on long-term injury reserve, but magically got healed in time for the postseason. One of the other reasons I hate long-term injury reserve, because it allows you to circumvent things because it's not an issue. There's no salary cap in the playoffs. Stone, he didn't take any shots in game 1, but he had 5 in game 2. That was his first 2 games since January 12th. I think, now that he has his legs under him a little bit, he'll be more involved offensively. That line's actually moved up to plus 112 at FanDuel, if anybody's going to follow that one. And that sums up today's show. Hopefully everybody has a good one out there. Hopefully the weather is favorable where you are, or if you have plans. Hopefully, you have a good week and you get have a profitable one again. Don't forget, use the promo code at the bottom of the screen. You can save 60% off the premiums at experts.winnersandwhiners.com. Make sure you like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you know when we're here. Like we said, 9 a.m. Saturday mornings. And we will keep you posted about any other changes as they come available. But thanks for being here. Thanks for taking time out of your morning and out of your weekend. Hopefully you all have a great day, and we will see you again next week for Winners and Whiners and the Winners and Whiners Network, I should say, and Just Parlays. I'm Chris King. So long, everybody.